Yesterday we had the biggest primary day that's going to happen this entire cycle, which means there were 8 primaries that happened yesterday, and I'm going to get my little cheat sheet so I can remember them. So we had Alabama, New Jersey, New Mexico, Iowa, California, Montana, Mississippi, and South Dakota. So the thing that's cool about this is that there are races all over the country. And so we really get to see a cross-section of what this election is going to look like. And what the media is saying it's about women. Oh, it's a win for women, this is an election for women. And that's great. Obviously, we want women to be represented. But it's also a real simplification because just because people have a vagina doesn't mean that they're the same, or they have the same views, the same context. So I'm going to go deeper into what happened with a story of 8 women from these 8 different primaries.
Scene 1, take 1. Okay, Kathleen, shoot the TV.
I can, but I won't.
Scene 2, take 1. Okay, Kathleen, chop some wood.
No way, not doing it.
Okay, Kathleen, can you at least pretend that's your dog?
This is my dog. Right, Danny?
So that was Kathleen Williams, who won for the at-large seat in Montana. And she represents, I think, what people are hoping for from women. Something new, something fresh, something honest. So the next woman that we're going to look at is Mikey Sherrill, who won with a tremendously commanding 77% of the vote in New Jersey's 11th district. And Mikey's interesting in that she really had the support from resistance groups, and her ad unusually mentioned Donald Trump. Most ads really talk about local politics and what the candidate can do for locally, or they talk about divisive social issues like immigration. But on the left, people are not talking about Trump. And Mikey did. And because she did that, she got a lot of grassroots support. Next, I want to talk about a couple of history makers. Deb Haaland in New Mexico and Abby Finkenauer in Iowa. And Deb Haaland, who won her primary, would be, if she wins in November, the first Native American woman to serve in Congress. And it's a complete travesty that this has not happened yet. And we obviously incredibly need Native Indigenous people to be represented in government at all levels. So yay, Deb Haaland. Also, Deb Haaland is a kick-ass, badass activist. She actually talks about Standing Rock in her campaign ad. So she's going way, way far to the left, and she won really handily. And the second history maker is Abby Finkenauer from Iowa, who, if elected in November, would be the youngest woman ever to be in Congress. She's 28 years old, and I'm going to show you a little of her ad. And it just shows you that these women they're running in different ways, and they all have unique personalities.
They said the state house would be too tough for a young lady. Then they said that a girl still paying off her student loans wasn't tough enough to beat a millionaire for Congress. Well, I say, watch me.
So our final Democratic woman I'm going to talk about is Dianne Feinstein. So Dianne is 84, and she has been in Congress for 26 years. So she is an OG of women in national politics, and she was challenged from the left in this primary. But she is a savvy political operator, and she rebranded herself as the head of the Trump resistance, and she won handily with over 40% of the vote in a multi-candidate race. So those are the happy stories of Democratic women, and now we're going to talk about 3 Republican women, and it gets a little more complicated. So the first is Kristi Noem, who won the gubernatorial primary in South Dakota, and she ran on a very, down to business, let's create results, similar to Casey Cagle in Georgia. So similar kind of candidate, and it worked for her. But as you get into the South, these primaries in Alabama and Mississippi, it's tough it's tough to be a lady down there. It's really conservative. So Sally Doty ran in Mississippi for Congress, and she's the only candidate, as a Republican, only candidate who had any government experience, and she ran much like Christie did on a, experience and getting results and making government better. And she was just brutally beaten. She got only 10% of the vote. And then the final story I want to talk about is from Alabama. And you might have heard about Martha Roby, who was forced into a runoff because she said before the election that she would not vote for President Trump because he said he would grab women in the... And because of that, she just was, her base was not happy about that at all. And even though she tried the gimmicks, like she has this really just pandering sad ad about how she's super against immigration and she wants to defend the borders, which, as you know, I think defending the borders is going to be like the "we're desperate" campaign topic for Republicans. So if you see that, it means people are scared. It's certainly a gimmick. She went as far to the right as she possibly could, and she still has to be in a runoff. But it's a little more complicated than that, in that the governor of Alabama is a woman, Kay Ivey. When it came to the election of Roy Moore, I know it's been an interesting year for Alabama. Kay said that, and this is interesting, so this is like being a Republican woman in the South post-Me Too movement. She said, one, that she believed his accusers that he was a sexual predator of young women. But two, that she would still vote for him because she wanted to keep the Republican majority in the Senate. So if you're a Republican woman, particularly in the South, like you really need to compromise your values. And I sympathize with these women because I think these women probably want to serve and be public servants and, yes, have conservative values, but just it's tough out there to be a lady in the South.